Hey guys, guess what? It is time for our live office hours, and I don't know if you guys can hear behind me, but there's a lot of stuff going on downstairs today. It is a bit of a crazy day because there's a lot of construction going on underneath where I am located right now. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay, see me okay. This is not the camera that we usually use for whatever reason. The camera's not working. And, it's just another Thursday. Thank you guys so much for being here today. My name is Felicia from SweetGeorgia. I don't know if you guys can hear all of the construction that's going on downstairs. It's a little bit crazy right now. But yeah, we have lots and lots of things to share today. I have lots of stuff to talk about inside the school. And so this is basically a moment in time where we get together once a month, every month, the last Thursday of every month, and we just talk about all the things that have been happening inside the school for the past month, what is coming up, questions that people have been asking. And it's just a time where I get to see you guys on chat and see how everything is going. And fantastic. That's good to know that you guys can't hear anything because there is drilling and drywalling and all sorts of things happening. So it's fantastic. Let's go, and I'm going to show you what we are going to talk about today. Can you see that? Yes, there's no camera there. Fantastic. Okay. Wonderful. So these are the things that we are going to talk about today. Oh, yes, I can turn off the music. There's the music. Thanks. It just sounds so nice in the background. I was like, oh, let's just keep going with the music. But yeah, these are the things that we are going to talk about today. This is the stuff that is top of mind, the things that are going on right now. And then we are going to talk about the latest updates, things that are happening inside the school. I hope you guys can see this fabulous, fabulous, amazing pillow photo that I have here. That is something that I have to share as well. Very, very exciting. You can see this pillow that I happened to sew out of hand-woven fabric. It is so fun. And then we're going to talk a little bit about upcoming events and things like that. Share a little bit about the community. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And then I have a Q&A question and also want to talk about all of the things that you have been making. This is the main feature of this session, is to be able to share the things that you have been creating and things that you've been learning and what you're making from the things that you're learning. So we're really, really excited about all of that. So excited to get going. Let's talk about what is top of mind. The top of mind thing is right now that we are building the dye studio downstairs, and it is almost the end of April. The dye studio should be done by the end of April. Just this morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, Hubert, our production manager, was over at the old location and working with the movers to bring over all of the old stoves that we have. They brought over the sinks that we use for the dye studio. They brought over everything, all of our undyed yarn, everything should theoretically be in this space as of today. But as we speak, there are people downstairs doing drywall, doing the taping and mudding, and they're going to be sanding next week. You can see here all of these pipes that are kind of exposed on the outside of our wall. They should be inside the wall, but they are not inside the wall. We decided to keep them outside and exposed for a reason, because this wall is all fireproofed and we didn't want to disturb any sort of fireproofing that was there. There's electricity coming here. That little whole thing is electricity coming to where all of our stoves are going to sit. All the sinks are going to sit here. And then you can see this sort of space that's under the mezzanine that is kind of open. It's kind of like electrical room area. And I am thinking about moving the loom that is behind me. I'm thinking about moving that downstairs into this under mezzanine space. We're going to talk a lot more about that. But my poor Mura loom that I love, it's this loom back here. It's 45 inches wide. It's an amazing loom. I absolutely love it, but it is too big for this particular room. And so in the past couple of weeks, we've been filming with Andrea Rangel from Victoria. She's teaching colorwork design. And then we also had some filming with Rachel Smith from Wool and Spinning. And so there is a lot of stuff in this room. And, with an instructor and 3 people working on cameras and things like that, there's just, like, no room to move around, and, it's very difficult to even get behind the camera because the loom is in the way, like, you can literally see it. The loom is here, and camera equipment is right there, and so I actually reached out to Leclerc, and I asked them to see if I could just sort of swap out the 45-inch wide pieces for 27-inch wide pieces and make the loom narrower, and they said, "No." They said, "It's better if you just sell the 45-inch loom and then buy a new 27-inch loom." And I don't think that I'm really in I don't know. We have enough looms. I don't think we need to buy another loom. So we're trying to figure out what to do with this loom. So it might go downstairs. But otherwise, this mezzanine area up here is actually our sort of kitchen. There's like a little lunchroom area up here. It's going to be nice when it's done, but right now it's a little bit busy in here. Yes, Deanna, there's so much going on at the studio right now. So yes, there's flooring, beautiful brand new flooring here to protect the concrete floor, because when you're dyeing, there is water. It will splash on the floor, and in previous spaces, we've experienced where overall moisture over and over and over again repeatedly on a concrete floor is not really the greatest idea. I don't know about if you've built a dye studio, if you're thinking about building a dye studio. These are all the things that we have sort of learned over the many years of building 7 different spaces to work out of. I hope that we can be in this space for a long time, but you never know. We might have to do this again. And so the last thing that we're considering is trying to figure out if this space needs additional lighting, because if all the dye tables are going to be here in this area, people are going to be working and kind of like looking at their colors and the yarn on these tables here, then maybe we have to figure out some kind of a lighting situation up here. So these are all things that we're working on right now. So that's what's happening here at the studio. Now, I want to share with you guys the things that are going on in and around me and the things that I'm working on and building sort of behind the scenes. These are all things that are related to various courses that we are teaching in the school and content that's going to be coming up in the coming months. And we talked about this at the very beginning of the year about like planning for the whole year and all the things I'm going to be working on. And some of the things involve doing more machine knitting, because I wanted to actually make more finished objects rather than just samples and swatches of things. And so this is a pile of scarves or cowls that actually Anita and Bridget right now are helping graft the ends of. But these are 5x5 cowls. It's a hand knitting pattern that I made ages ago, and it's literally the easiest thing ever. It is 5x5 ribbing. You cast on 45 stitches, you knit 5x5 ribbing, and you knit until you run out of yarn. And the goal is that you're knitting with multiple strands of yarn held together. And so I have readapted that pattern so that I could knit it on a knitting machine. And so you can see these are all, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4. I actually make 6 of these cowls, crank them out on a bulky knitting machine, and they are so fast when you actually do them on the knitting machine. When I actually got it set up and got going, each cowl takes about 15 minutes, maybe 12 minutes to actually knit up. It's so quick. I highly recommend knitting machines. I think it's such a fun way to experience yarn. Like, this gives me more time to try different yarn combinations, try different color combinations, mix different things together. I get to experiment more because it happens faster. If I knit one of these cowls and it took me, like, on average, it would have taken me like a couple of weeks to make something. It would take me that long to then be able to test the next color combination. Whereas I could make 2 or 3 in like an evening and be able to compare a lot of different things. So in any case, that's my plug for machine knitting. I think it's awesome. So that's what I've been making. That's been fun. The hand painted warps that is going on this Fanny loom right now. This is warps that were painted in a fiber reactive dye class that we did ages ago. And this is all tied on right now. So I'm now at the spot at my house where I'm about to beam the loom and beam this warp. And that's going to be really, really fun when we see all of these colors become different stripes together. And then we're going to actually start to weave it. And so this warp is actually longer than I remember. So I'm just thinking right now, should we make a scarf? Should we make it into a towels? Should I weave with cotton in the weft? Should I weave with merino silk lace in the weft and make it into a scarf? Lots of different questions I have right now. So that's a little bit of what I'm working on at home. And then this is actually something that I stumbled on very recently. Was it last week? I think it was last week. I gave a talk at a local spinners and weavers guild, and it's the Peace Arch Weavers Guild, and they have an amazing, wonderful facility there. It's in the Museum of Surrey, and upstairs they have a loom room where they can get together and weave and spend time and all that kind of stuff. And they also have an exhibit that changes from month to month. And so this month's exhibit was actually all about tartan. Amazing. And so this was really great because next year I'm going to be giving a presentation about tartan and designing with plaids, designing stripes, designing all of these kinds of things, trying to, use color in a different way, putting color together in a way that would form a tartan or a plaid. And I find this whole topic really, really interesting because I kind of shied away from the idea of weaving tartan and talking about plaid and all these kinds of things because I wondered about sort of like um, cultural significance, about heritage, about like, is anybody allowed to, weave a tartan? Is anybody allowed to wear a tartan? And so the more and more I got into this, the more and more I've discovered that so far in my reading, it's actually very, very inclusive. There is a registry of tartans in Scotland where you can register a unique combination of threads, colors, design, all of these kinds of things. I think there's about 7,000 different tartan designs already registered. Some of them are for families, some of them are very, long history and all these kinds of things, but some of them are brand new. Some of them are designed for lots of different reasons. There's a Hello Kitty registered tartan. There's a Hello Kitty design. Um, and so here you can see that there's a tartan that was designed up here for Vancouver, and there was a different tartan that was designed for British Columbia. And then these are other tartans that were designed for Canada. And some of them are worn for like fancier occasions, and others are worn for more casual occasions. And so there's a whole wealth of information and knowledge and just a whole world of color and design that's out there that I'm really, really interested in exploring a little bit more of. And yeah, so Robin, you're Scottish, you have a family tartan. It's so cool, so wonderful to be able to have something that you can identify with. So there is a weaving mill that I've been following for a number of years now, and it's in the Scottish Highlands, and it's called Prickly Thistle, I think is the name. And so Prickly Thistle, if you go and look up, Google this mill, they are designing and weaving brand new modern tartans. They will design a tartan for your business. They will design a tartan for your family. I think they designed a tartan for a girl who has Scottish heritage but was born in Hong Kong. And it was kind of like a mix of her two heritages blended together in a new tartan design. I love this idea. I think it's so, so cool. And so, yeah, in any case, I am just at the very beginning of exploring all of this and learning all about this. But I'm really, really excited to walk this whole path with you, especially since, like, with learning all the overshot history and background, that was super fascinating to me. And so now to dive into all of this sort of Scottish weaving history and heritage, I think will also be really, really interesting. And hope that we'll have lots of things to share. And you guys will have lots of things to contribute as well. So excited about all of that. Now, what else are we making? We are also working on, I warped up this rigid heddle loom. It is a Shacked Cricut 15-inch wide rigid heddle loom. And it's because Shacked, Jane Patrick over there, sent me a brand new 15 dent reed. I think it's a new thing for them. And so she sent one to me so that I could play with it. Because 15 ends per inch is actually a great set to work with if you want to work with fingering weight yarn. If you want to have a bit of like a warp faced look to your fingering weight yarn, that's something that you can try. So I warped up this loom. This loom has actually been shipped to H&H in Chicago, and I'll be weaving samples on this at the booth and talking a little bit about this and seeing how this all works. And so we're going to have a little bit of a conversation later on in the year about set, because I have woven, many of the yarns. Like this one yarn that we're using here is the Tough Love Sock. It's a 80/20 superwash merino and nylon sock yarn. And I've woven this particular yarn at 10 ends per inch, 12 ends per inch, and now it will be at 15 ends per inch. And I want to have a little bit of a comparison of what that looks like, why you would do this or that or whatever. And so that's something that I want to be able to explore. Also, I will let you know that this loom took less than an hour to warp up and weave. It's just, I'm constantly surprised at how quick you can get started with rigid heddle. It is very, very simple. I just clamped the loom to one end of my kitchen island and the peg to the other end and just started warping and was done very quickly. Even 15 ends per inch, it goes by really, really quickly. So that is that. This is all of the socks that I'm currently grafting. So I have some hand spun socks. I have some colorways that I'm playing with. I have some of these. This is rose colored glasses from February. This is a gradient sock blank. This is Sakura season, the April sock blank. This is some cabin colored yarn. This is March sock yarn. So I have this case. It's like a train case that I got last year from H&H. And so one side of it, these are all the socks that need to be grafted. These are all the socks that have been grafted. I have a little tiny little snap case of tiny little darning needles that I keep with me. And so I just carry this train case with me to social events. I take it with me to parties. I'm serious. I take it with me and I graft toes of socks while I sit there and chat with my friends. And it's been great. And it's actually been super productive because I'm grafting lots and lots of toes of socks. Because that's the thing that I sort of like doing the least. And so it's nice to be able to take that with me. And this is the crackle weaving. This is the piece of fabric that I wove for the crackle class as part of an experiment. I love this color. I love the combination of the yarn and everything. And so this piece of fabric got converted into a pillow. And that is going to be one of the projects, or that's going to be the project that comes out of the crackle class when we release it very, very shortly. But you can see I did not actually weave enough fabric to make a double-sided pillow. So the back side of this pillow is actually plain grayish linen that I had from a previous project. And so I just sewed the two things together. It's inside a pillow form that I got. And yeah, I think it looks quite minimal and modern in a lot of ways, even though it's this very interesting um, weave structure. I love it. And I love that it's yellow and I love the chevrons. I just love all the things about it. So that has been what has been going on in and around here. Yes. I can't see what you say. Elena saying, "Oh, I like the idea of two faces of the cushion a lot." Yeah, you could do two sides the same, two sides different. You can flip over the pillow so you can have different moods if you like, all of that. So let us quickly look at the timeline that I set out for myself at the beginning of January and what is done. Things are happening. Lots and lots of things are happening. And so currently, summer and winter pattern, we have the pattern. The threading is done. Rough draft of the pattern is done. It's currently with the tech editors. And we have delivered yarn to our wonderful sample weaver who's going to be working on it. And they are going to be weaving a version in Brassard 8-2 cotton. And I am going to attempt to weave a version in 8-2 cottonlin. So Brassard 8-2 cottonlin. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. That's going to be really fun. That's happening. Waffle weave. I have two samples. I just need to measure them and then I'm going to wash one and then we're going to talk about that. So that's one of the things that I will share in an upcoming SOS Weavers meeting when we meet on the second Monday of every month. I'm going to share that and I'm going to share some other overshot things as well. So waffle weave is happening. Stripes and plaids. We are doing some reading and some research. I'm collecting books. I found that there's this book where it's got a picture of every single tartan and a history of it and everything like that. So I'm just going to be doing a lot of that kind of reading right now. Hand painted warps. Right now, I have the warps. They're all wound. We just need to dye them. And part of the delay in getting them dyed is that our dye studio downstairs is not really built yet, and we don't have the sinks. Dyeing with fiber reactive dyes requires a ton of water for washing things out. And so that's kind of what I'm a little bit waiting for. We were going to film that painting part of it in here in this room, not in the dye studio area. And we're going to film it top down so that you can see actual dye being painted onto the warp. Um, so that's what we're doing. We're working on it. Spinning for the night shift or traveler's cowl is happening. Yes, all of that spinning is happening right now. I have spun all my singles for the night shift one, and then currently I've spun one bobbin or like one half of my fractal for the traveler's cowl, and I just need to spin the other half, and then we can start plying and get going on that. Um, this MK gradient yarns, machine knitting the gradient yarns, that's a little bit stalled just because me and the machine are not getting along. The punch card is not getting along with me. Anyways, and then the CSM ribbed socks. So I haven't got to the part of doing the ribbed socks yet because every month I have been making plain stockinette socks for the yarn club, for the Secret Stash Yarn Club. I crank a pair of socks every single month to show what the colors look like. And so I've been focused on doing that so much that I really haven't had the opportunity to practice using the ribber much. But it's coming. It's supposed to be a whole year thing, so it's coming along. So I am also curious about you guys. If you are sticking with a plan that you created at the very start of the year, if things are sort of going on track, yeah, it's what? It's April already, 4 months. That's a third into the year almost. I'm wondering how you're doing with all the plans that you set out for the beginning of the year. So let's quickly talk about the latest updates. I have here some overshot stuff. So, like I said, one of the things that I wanted to include in the course, but then didn't, is I want to do a little bit of like a look around and see what other people are making with their overshot. And so I had been collecting inspiration over the past year or so of people doing amazing things with overshot, whether it's they're weaving overshot with their hand spun, or they're weaving overshot at massive scale, they're making art pieces, whatever it is that they're doing, or they're using like, I don't know, straw, hay, using thrums to weave overshot. There's lots and lots of different things that people are doing with their overshot. And I just wanted a chance to sort of share some of that inspiration with everybody. And so the next time we meet for that SOS Weavers meeting, the second Monday of every month, that second Monday, yeah, I would like to share some of that inspiration with you. And then we'll have some other things to talk about as well. Some other things about the dummy warp. Maybe we'll talk a bit about the hand painted stuff. Yeah, that last meeting that we had was really, really great. And one of the things that I will mention, and I'll talk about it again, is that we started recording the meetings. So if you missed that Weavers meeting, you can go back and watch it. So that is there too. So I hope that you guys have been enjoying the overshot stuff. It is fun. It is the beginning of many, many weaving things. Tension systems. Tension systems. I have been seeing some really, really good conversations happening in the tension systems chat on the forum. People are watching this class, they are learning how to set up their wheels. This is my Saxony wheel. I love this wheel. It's noisier than I think it should be. There's some weird sort of things that need tweaking on my particular wheel. And so I am going to do some of that. I think that Kim has also given me the confidence to look at setting up the wheel in double drive instead of Scotch tension. I sort of default everything to Scotch tension because it's easy to understand, it's easy to manage, but I feel like I could do more things if I learned different ways of doing things, including working with a different drive system on these wheels that were designed to use that drive system. So that is the course with Kim McKenna. Tension systems, it's looking at tweaking your wheel, working with Irish tension, Scotch tension, double drive, lots of nuance about all of those things. And hopefully everybody's learned lots of things from that class. We also are finishing up things to do with the Crackle class. So Crackle is like the next installment of this block weaving sort of supplementary weft block weaving series that we're doing. And Crackle is amazing. I cannot wait for you guys to see how it all works, and it's just so cool. Like, I love this photo because this is, you can see right here, it's one warp, and down here, it's woven with this pink and green color, and that is woven in sort of like a monk's belt style, and that makes a certain kind of look and texture. And then you come up here, and this is woven with classic crackle and a completely different look and feel. Two completely different looks and feels on the exact same warp with the exact same threading. There's so much possibility. Like, if I wove an entire piece of fabric with this pink and green sort of fabric, I could cut that up and make that into a pillow. I could make this classic crackle into a pillow. All of this is super fun. I loved it. So I encourage you guys to check that crackle class out when it comes out. It was, yeah, it's so fun. I think that if there were weave structures that I would come back to over and over and over again, I think crackle would be one of them, because there's just so many things that you could do with it, so many different ways to play with color. So yes, it is coming soon. We're putting the finishing touches on it right now. Now, this one is about grading knitwear. This is also coming out very soon. We're working on the finishing touches of this course as well. This is one taught by Holly Yo. She's a knitwear designer here locally here in Vancouver. She's designed many, many garments for publication, for self-publishing. Holly and I worked on a book many, many years ago, probably like 10 years ago, called Tempest. And so she designed a number of patterns for that. And in fact, Greta was our model. That's the first time I met Greta, is when Greta modeled for the Tempest book that we worked on together. So this is like, it all comes full circle. It's all really fun. But you can see all of these numbers. What are all these numbers and all these measurements? How do you get from this size to this size? How do you calculate what is right for all of these things? If you want to make a sweater for yourself, maybe that's like not too hard, because you can try it on, you can see, does this fit, everything. But if you want to make 14 different sizes, if you want to write patterns for knitwear and you want to, scale to 14 different sizes, how do you do that? How do you do all those calculations? So this is what Holly is like very, very, very good at. And so this is the course that she's put together, teaching you how to work through all of these measurements and size standards and all of these kinds of things in order to produce very inclusively sized patterns. So if you are interested in designing your own knitwear, I do highly recommend checking out the work that Holly's put together here. So that is coming very shortly as well. And we're doing another course on spindles. So this is not the title. More Spindles is not the title. We're still working on a title. This is kind of like working title. It was Spindles 2.0. It's not really the title. We have to figure out a good title. But it's basically Diana Twist is going to come, and she's going to talk more about working with spinning with spindles, both suspended spindles and supported spindles. If you follow Diana Twist's Instagram, you will see that she loves spindles. So many things there. So there is lots to enjoy with all that. This is my supported spindle collection, which I really quite enjoy and like. But yeah, if you want to get better at supported spindling, you can come and check that out as well. We also have Summer and Winter. That is coming. That's the third installment of the series of sort of this supplementary weft block weave techniques. So that is coming out later on this summer as well. And so this is the pattern that I've been working on, and this is going to be extrapolated out into a larger sort of kitchen towel pattern. Fantastic. Yes. Now, upcoming events. I'm going to show you our rough outline of May. So this is our May calendar. You can see this is H&H Americas is basically the trade show that's going to be happening in Chicago. Teresa and I are going to be away basically from this Monday all the way until Saturday. And then we will be back after that, hopefully with lots of inspiration and lots of new products to talk about and lots of new things. Every Monday, or no, actually every Monday we do have something going on. But Mondays in the morning, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on the first and third Monday, we have Crafternoons with Robin. We also have a new 5 p.m. Pacific Time Multi-Craftual Monday meetup. And so that is open to everybody in the Sweet Georgia community. So that's there. We also have this weaving meetup on the second Monday of every month and a fiber prep meetup on the fourth Monday of every month. You can see here we also do our Taking Back Friday live streams on the second Friday of every month. And this live office hours is the last Thursday of every month. And then we have these community led quiet co-working sessions which happen every Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and that's just a chance for everybody to get online and make things silently and be really super productive and get a lot of things done. But that is basically what our May is looking like right now. Just a reminder that we have our multi-craftual make-along happening right now. We're focused on spinning fractal yarn. There's a lot of conversation about that. There's a lot of there's a lot of really interesting conversation about fractal yarns happening both on the SOS forums and also in Discord. And so hopefully you guys are doing some spinning and enjoying some of that technique. There's lots to do there. So the Multi-Craftual Mondays, just a reminder, that's when it is. These are fractal yarns as well. So these are fractal yarns that were spun for the book that I wrote a couple of years ago about dying to spin and knit. And so you can see here, this picture on the right hand, or this skein on the right hand side, this is a 2-ply fractal spun yarn. And then using the same colorway, this is a 3-ply fractal spun yarn. And so you can already see that there's quite a bit of difference in the saturation of the colors. When you split it up and you blend up your colors a little bit more into a 3-ply, more mixing and blending makes the colors more mute, makes the colors more subtle, more soft. Lots and lots of things happening with that. So I'm curious about if you guys have been making 2-ply or 3-ply fractals, what you're discovering with all of that. We can talk more about that as well. This is Crafternoons reminder. Robin has been doing a ton of machine knitting. If you are following her either in the forums or on Discord, she's doing a ton of machine knitting. And so she has inspired me to carve out more time to go to my attic and do all these things. It's been really lovely to have her encouragement. So I appreciate that. Thanks, Robin. And a reminder of the topic focused meetings. So weaving meetups and fiber prep meetups. And we're going to talk a little bit more about overshot and some overshot inspiration happening then. And finally, reminder that yes, we have a lot of different ways for members to meet up. And so what we did is I've updated this page here, schoolofsweetgeorgia.com/connect, and that will list all the different ways that you can meet with everybody and look at our event calendar and how to find the Zoom links and all those kinds of things. There is lots of stuff happening, lots and lots of meeting opportunities. Now, quickly about the community. Yes. So when you click on or when you hover over this community tab on the website, this is all the stuff that comes out. And so, yes, there is quite a lot of stuff. There's quite a number of different ways that you can connect with this maker community. And so, one of the things is trying to sort of orient everybody around this, trying to help everybody understand all the different things that are available. And so we have these community forums, which is this link here, and that will bring you to this forum. This forum is really, really full of solid, amazing information in there. Our instructors can get tagged in questions on the forums, and our instructors are in there providing really super helpful, very, very in-depth answers to many, many questions that happen inside the forum. So that is where you go if you want a really solid answer to questions that you might have about a course or content that you've been working through or things like that. The Discord chat is what I mentioned before as well. Discord chat is very much like more casual. It is open to the public. It's open to anybody in the community, anybody in the Sweet Georgia community. And so there might be school people in there might not be school people in there, but everybody's talking also about making all of the different things. The kind of the style of chat is different because it's quicker, it's faster, it's shorter, it's a little bit more Yeah, it's a conversation. It goes by much quicker. So, depending on what your style of communication is, what your favorite style is, you might enjoy one or the other. We also have these interest groups, which is kind of like deep dives into any particular topic. When we were running study groups, that's where all the conversation happened. The events calendar is like that monthly calendar that I showed you. These live office hours are archived under this tab here. So if you have to leave, you can't watch the whole thing, then definitely you can come here and look at the recordings of that. And then we have the meeting recordings of the topic focused meetings that we've been running. So when Greta runs her fiber prep meeting or I run the weaving meeting, those meetings are now recorded based on your survey results from last week. So from the last month, we decided to start recording all of those meetings. And so those meeting recordings are going to be here. And then finally, these are the links to the Crafternoons with Robin. These are the quiet community co working sessions. And then there's also community led meetups, which is just basically you guys can uh, decide on a time to meet together. And we have a Zoom room open for you at any time. You can go in and pop in and chat and all that kind of stuff. And so that's a way that if you want to connect with people who are in a different time zone than maybe we are, we can facilitate that happening for you as well. So that is kind of like an orientation, hopefully, to all of the different ways that we can connect. So here is another reminder about the Discord and where all of that is. So you can see if you are a member of the school, your name gets highlighted in orange. If you've connected your sort of accounts to your Sweet Georgia, as your SOS account. And there are also reminders of all the meetings and things like that in the events section of Discord. So you can find that there as well. Now we have one quick Q&A that I wanted to talk about today. So this is a question that actually came over intercom, which is kind of like our help system. There's like a little chat box in the bottom of the SOS website. And so you can ask us questions through there. The questions actually go to Anita, and questions might also come to me as well. But if you pop a message into that chat box at the bottom corner, it's the bottom right corner of the SOS website, you will be able to get access to us and ask questions directly. This is It's probably better if you can ask your questions in the forums because then other people can also see your questions and also help answer. But in any case, we do have that function available. So Belinda was asking, should not, she was asking about dyeing and using citric acid for dyeing with acid dyes. And she was wondering about why we specify 4% weight of fiber of citric acid for the dye bath. Because pH is actually, mm, she's saying here, okay, shouldn't the amount of citric acid used depend on the amount of water? For example, if you are swimming the yarn in a big bath of water versus a low immersion dye bath, shouldn't that make a difference? I've pulled out all my old chemistry books and cannot come up with an answer that helps me as to why 4% should be the magic answer. And she said, for context, I have a PhD in applied mathematics and a minor in chemistry, so calculations about chemical things do not faze me, and I've learned about calculating pH for solutions in school, albeit many moons ago. But you say that using 4% weight of fiber of citric acid in the dye bath when you're dyeing yarns. Why do we do this? And she's saying, thank you so much. I'm starting a yarn dyeing business based on your inspiration and just love the School of Sweet Georgia. And so, yes, absolutely. I answered Belinda directly, but also wanted to share this here as well, because this idea of using 4% weight of fiber of citric acid is something that we kind of like picked up along the way while I was learning how to dye. And so when you look at all of the dye suppliers, when you look at their instructions, you go to Pro Chemical or you go to Dharma Trading or any of these websites, they will tell you that you use a certain sort of scoop of citric acid relative to how much yarn you're dyeing. So if you're dyeing one skein of yarn, you use like 1 teaspoon of citric acid or whatever it is. And so in all of those instructions, it has worked out to be sort of like dependent on how much yarn you're dyeing, but really it should be relative to how much water is in the pot. Now, all of this sort of, 1 teaspoon citric acid per skein in a pot, all of this kind of stuff, and the 4% weight of fiber of citric acid has worked out because we're using roughly the same amount of water every time. It's kind of like a default. You're in a pot. of water, and it's not too much water, it's not too little water. It's just kind of like this is a default good amount of water for yarn to be swimming around, kind of just like in this photo here, like good amount of water. Um, the results have been fine. But if you had a tiny, tiny, skinny little skein of like a mini skein, if you had a tiny little mini skein of fiber and you had this giant pot of water and you put in just the amount of citric acid that you would need for that tiny little mini skein, you would find that this wouldn't work because that tiny amount of citric acid wouldn't change the pH in the dye bath enough to maybe make that acid dye work. So in practice, you would have to add more citric acid if you're dyeing a tiny little mini skein and a huge pot of water. And so the thing that we have been recommending more and more now is to actually test the pH of your dye bath with test strips. Then you'll know what pH your dye bath actually is and if the chemical reaction that's required for your acid dye will actually work or not. So I think it's all to say that the 4% weight of fiber citric acid calculation works because you're just generally doing the same thing all the time. But if you're not doing this same thing, if you are dyeing tiny little skeins in a huge pot of water, or you're dyeing in a low water immersion dye bath, maybe you need different amounts of citric acid. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question, and hopefully that is helpful for anybody else who is working on dyeing this summer with their acid dyes. And yeah, if you want to talk more about this, of course, we have conversations about all of these dying things in the forums all the time as well. So, with that, let's talk about your stuff. So, the first thing I want to share is we always love to share first hand spun. So, congratulations to Victoria, our member, who has been actually a member for a long time. You can go and follow her thread. Here she has Victoria Projects 2024. That's the name of her thread here. But Victoria has been posting photos and projects for a while now. And so she said recently, I've been so curious about spinning that I bought this suspended spindle from Louette. Um, and some merino fiber when we were on holiday. And so I've been practicing the park and draft technique. And look at my first hand spun yarn. She's like, I'm so amazed that I made yarn. Of course, it's not perfect, but it's so addictive, I can hardly stop. And so that is the enthusiasm that you experience when you learn how to spin for the first time. And it's amazing. So, congratulations, Victoria. It's really wonderful. Lovely to see, and hope that you are still enjoying your spindle. The next thing I want to share is from Leanne. Now, there's going to be a series of photos here because this is a bit of a progression. But this progression was sort of inspired and started off by the course that was recently released by Kim McKenna. So, oh, Leanne, you're in the chat here. Yay. So this is Spin a Hand-Dyed Braid 5 Ways. This is the course that was taught by Kim McKenna. And so it's taking one colorway and looking at multiple different ways that you could spin this yarn to create a bunch of different kinds of effects. And so one of the effects is a yarn called raindrop yarn. This is Kim gave this name, raindrop yarn. And so Leanne used this idea to start to make a little bit of this raindrop yarn. So this is the tiny little sample. She says, I made a very tiny sample of raindrop yarn with some Polworth and a bit of blue from Winter's End, which was our secret stash sort of fiber subscription delivery for March of this year. And Leanne says, I love the subtlety. My question is, how do you scale up the fiber prep? Would you fill a blending board and diz off that? And so the answer to this is very, very, very comprehensive. You can find the whole conversation here at this link, okay? And this is part of the reason why I encourage you to check out the forums. I encourage you to go look in the forums. I encourage you to ask questions of the instructors in the forums because the answers they are part of the education as well. They are part of the content. They're part of the education. There is so much to learn. But let me just share with you some of the photos as we kind of go through. So that's the tiny little swatch that she made of the fluff of fiber, spun it into yarn, and then knitted it. And so you can see the tiny little haze of color here. It's so subtle, but it's so nuanced and so lovely. Really, really lovely. And so Kim gave some advice in the forums about how to scale up. And then you can see Leanne has taken her Winter's End colorway, which was like a blue and purple kind of colorway, and she broke it up into the different sort of shades of color that are in that braid. And so some of the lighter colors are over here, and then mixed together, and then the blues, royal blues, and then the deep purples. And so she's actually pulled and dizzed off little bits, blending it all together to form this gradient of color. This is all dizzed, prepped fiber. So, so lovely. And then all of this fluffy, fluffy white fiber, I guess it's Polworth, that's all going to go with it. And so this next progression, oops, is this one where she's taken the Polworth and blended it together with the gradient of colors that are in there. So you can see all the fibers prepped. It's so nice and tidy. This is amazing. And as she goes, she's spinning the yarn to make this. She's spinning the yarns together, and then kind of like she's got a skein here, and then there's going to be more and more of these little fiber bundles are going to be transformed into yarn. And then she'll have a gradient of all of these skeins will fade into each other. And then I believe Leanne's plan is to then knit a poncho with this, or a big garment with this. So this whole conversation, this whole thread is all in the forums. You can follow along with all of the planning, all of the measurements, lots and lots of information in there. So I highly encourage you to check out that amazing thread. So congratulations, Leanne, your yarn is looking beautiful. In the same thread, we have also a conversation about this. This is Malabrigo fiber, which I believe is merino. I think it's 100% merino. And this is in the zinnia colorway. And so Julie is saying that she split the fiber lengthwise in half into two halves, and then she took each of those halves and then dizzed them on hand carders, and then spun each half to their own bobbin, and then has plied it together to make a 2-ply yarn. It's really, really beautiful and lovely skein. It just looks soft and fluffy and puffy. I just kind of feel like looking at all of this fiber that has been dizzed and prepped and just so soft and so lovely is just very satisfying and rewarding in and of itself. I feel like this adds so much more joy to the process of spinning, just spending more time with your fibers, seeing it so lovely, seeing it so fluffy and puffy. And so in any case, if you haven't given that a try yet, I encourage you to find some hand carders, find a little button or get a diz, and then try this technique. It's been really, really fun. The next is a little overshot sample. So this is from Kat, and Kat says, the course was great. I learned so much. I did weave several very small samples and found my results interesting. For the most part, Kat was using 10-2 cotton warp, and then mostly 5-2 cotton weft, except for this sample. This sample is 8-2 cotton for the weft. And so the 8-2 cotton is a little bit thicker, no, a little bit thinner than the 5-2 cotton. And so she said that she liked this tone on tone sample the most. But yes, lots and lots of things. She says, there's no storage in her room and she has to set everything up. And so, she's talking about how sometimes she feels like she weaves a little bit slower, but slower is not a big deal. It takes me like months and months and years to weave some warps off. So I'm really glad that you are getting to do all of this. It is a really, really pretty sample. Beautiful. So I'm glad that you are enjoying the overshot weaving. We have more weaving things to share. This is by Kate. Last month, we looked at Kate's warp and her project that was on the loom. And so she was making the radiant towels, and she expanded the pattern to make it a little bit bigger. And she says, I like a finished towel after washing and hemming to be about 18 to 20 inches wide and about 24 to 26 inches long. That's just my preference. Everyone is different. And so she did lengthen her warp to make a longer warp, and then she also made it wider. So you can see that in last month's live office hours. We talked about that. And then she said, I tried to get 7 towels, but the last one will be a lovely fingertip towel because there's not enough warp, probably. Um, and then she says she would go even wider next time. So she added 12 threads to each color through group, making an additional 84 threads to the total. And then she said, I would go even wider next time. And then she said, I like to use the loom waist at either end for short twisted tassels. So she leaves 5 inches unwoven at the end of the first and the beginning of the last towel. And then she can make tassels on that particular towel. So these samples are really, really lovely. You can see the weaving is beautiful. It's nice. They are washed. They're finished. They're all sewn together. And so you can follow that whole thread here with the radiant towels. Yes, we are currently reworking the pattern as well to make it wider and longer and all the things. And here's another inspiration with the radiant towels. So this is by Catherine. Catherine has made the radiant towels before, but this one she started using sort of like a color set. Used a set of colors that she got from Jane Stafford's kit, I believe, and it's called a weaving kit combination from Jane Stafford called Parrot. And so she used that for warp colors, I believe. And so she says, color is my therapy for busy times. One of my favorite ways is to find the relaxation of the flow state by pulling colors out of my stash and coming up with warp for kitchen towels. And my latest project is based, again, on Felicia's radiant towels. I can't seem to get enough of the color and optical mixing possibilities of this approach. So she's used a bunch of different colors in the weft, but she's also mentioned that there is a subtle 8-shaft reversing twill flowers pattern hiding in there as well. So you can see there's a little bit of a sort of like a diamond pattern happening in the background of these towels, but they are beautiful. I love sort of the color mixing. She says, yeah, it has kind of like an impressionistic look because you've got this blue of the sand, sea and sky kind of colors, but then also there's this orange that's kind of popping out. There's this sunset color that's popping out. There's just something that's so gorgeous about them. And I feel like if you were to see these in real life, they would be even more stunning. It's just beautiful. And yeah, it is just sort of like the mixing and blending, optical mixing and blending of colors and simple sort of twill pattern laid on. Beautiful. Very inspiring, and it makes me want to make more towels. And then we have here, these are by Jody. So Jody said she spent the weekend playing around with the M&W placemat pattern from the Intentional Weaving Workshop. This is the course that was by Laura Fry. And so she said, I didn't have any of the suggested yarns on hand, but decided to go for it anyway and use it as a chance to sample different yarns and colors and learn how they look and behave. And so she said that she used mallow. This is just mallow in the warp, and just mallow is kind of like it's a cotton yarn, but it's a bit of a bubbly kind of yarn. It's not a smooth texture. It's got a little bit of a bubble to it, but it weaves beautifully. And I think that this must have made beautiful towels. And I believe the weft yarn here, this turquoise weft yarn, is 8-4 cotton from Maurice Brassard. So it looks really, really lovely. Yeah, fantastic. So thank you for sharing that one. That is from the Intentional Weaver course. We also have here from Jennifer. Jennifer, last month we talked about Jennifer setting up her Glamacra. Uh, did I say that right? Glamacra loom. And so there's photos, and there was a whole big long story of her setting up her new floor loom. And so this is, I believe, one of the first things that she has woven on it. And it is basically an alpaca scarf where Jennifer bought the alpaca and then she dyed it this color. And then she has also bits of alpaca fiber that she's laid in, sort of, yeah, inlay. She's just laid into the shed to create this little bits of design and things. So really, really lovely. So 4 skeins of alpaca yarn, dyed it navy blue with lanicet, and trying to do something very, very simple. So Jennifer knows that her loom has more shafts, but she set it up just to do 2 shafts, just to get started and kind of like work with this loom that's very new to her. So just trying to get a hang of the whole thing. But it's fantastic. Congratulations on your first project on loom. And then we have this one, which is by Vivian. Now, this is a really cool thing, and I do encourage you to check this out. She said she's trying to revive this thread, and it was about a course that Kim taught for us last summer, I believe, called Nuances to Spinning Better Yarns. And so there's a lot of information here, and this course is one of the first places where we were really encouraged to pre-draft our fiber before spinning, right? Like pre-attenuate your fiber until it's really loose and smooth and fluffy, and then put it on a distaff so that you have your fiber, it's prepared, it's ready. And then also looking at using lap cloths. And so Vivian here has designed and sewn her own lap cloths, so that way she can work with a bunch of different features, I think, for her spinning. So basically, it's 2 colors. It's a dark color on one side, it's a light color on the other side. And so it can provide contrast to whatever you happen to be spinning. So if you're spinning light colored fabric, then you would turn it so that the dark side is up so that you could see what you're doing. The other thing that she has added to her lap cloths here is that she's sewn like a running stitch, a straight stitch, and done it with 1 inch markers. So this is basically a ruler that she's created here. So each section is 1 inch. That way, she can use this as a guide for when she's like laying the yarn over her lap cloth to do a rough measurement of like bumps per inch or twists per inch or things like that. Like she's using this as a ruler. So that's a really interesting feature that she has in here. So she's added lines of contrasting thread 1 inch apart for when I'm measuring my draft. Also for measuring when you're drafting. So one of the things that Kim talks about is drafting back the same amount all the time. So if you're like drafting back 2 inches, then looking at that over your lap cloth, you can also see that as well. That's also very interesting. And then the one in the foreground was made more for flicking locks on my lap with pockets at each end for the discarded bits. Didn't add lines for this one, but it would also work well for spinning when measuring isn't involved. So there's lots of conversation on this particular thread now from this point on, talking about lap cloths and different ways of managing the spinning on your while you're spinning. And yeah, I love this idea because I spin just without a lap cloth and end up with fiber all over my pants. And so this is something that I feel like should probably have. It would be a nice thing to have. This next thing is about rewinding bobbins. And so, again, from the class that we've talked a lot about trying to rewind bobbins. It evens out the twist, all of these kinds of things. But if you don't have sort of like a bobbin winder, you can sort of jury rig your own version using an index card and a knitting needle and some tape. And so this is a very thorough explanation from Kim on this thread here of how to set up your spinning wheel so that way you can just rewind bobbins with it as well. So it's very, very clever. Lots of sort of ingenuity happening here. So I do encourage you guys to check that out too if you're thinking about looking for ways of rewinding your singles and you don't have a bobbin winder perhaps. We're also talking about spinning fractals yarns. And so this is from Amanda B. And she says, I have pivoted to spinning a fractal from Rollags using an article by Heavenly Bresser from the fall 2023 issue of Spinoff as an inspiration. So she said she had planned to dye a braid so that she could fractal spin a braid, but her new dye station is not set up yet at her new studio. She's just recently moved continents and setting up her new space and everything like that. And so instead, she decided to use this other technique where you're spinning a fractal by taking bundles of fiber, blending them into Rollags, and then this would be all of these Rollags here in this picture would be for one half, so one bobbin, and then the other bobbin would have these same colors, but split up again into multiple bits. And I believe Amanda's done 2 bits. So it would be like a two sections and then one section, and then ply those together, and that would make your fractal yarn. Again, done from Rolex. There's all sorts of things happening here right now. There's fractal yarn, there's color mixing and blending, there's going to be optical color mixing, there's the mixing and blending that happens from Rolex. There's a lot of things going on. And so, yes, if you have never tried making your own Rolex before, we do have a number of courses that talk about that. So, blending boards with Debbie Held, blending Rolex, sometimes scrappy Rolex, lots of different kinds of Rolex, gradient Rolex, all of that kind of stuff. And then also, we have some classes with Diana Twist where she also talks about using blending boards and making Rolex. And Greta's saying that actually Amanda came and talked about this process at the last Fiber Prep meeting, which happened the fourth Monday of every month. And so that meeting has been recorded. So you can go and check out that meeting and watch the replay of that if you want to learn more about what Amanda is doing here. So thank you for sharing that. I love that it's not just like fractals, but fractals in all different kinds of ways we can have this conversation. And I'm going to share this one with you. This is by Nina. I think Nina is in the chat today as well. But Nina sewed this bag from hand woven fabric. You can see over here, this face here is her hand woven fabric that has like these quilt lines sewn into it. And then I believe she has used quilting cotton to do the sides, so something that's not too thick. But basically, she said, at this moment, I'm learning something that is not yet a topic at SOS. I'm sewing with my woven fabric. I saw 2 YouTube videos by experienced weavers who talked about that and how to overcome the fear to cut into that precious fabric. She said, I had planned to make a small bag for my absolute must have knitting stuff on the go, and then I switched gears and decided to use some of my woven fabric. Very exciting. So far, everything is okay, but I need my serger on top of my sewing machine, better than zigzagging the edges. So she was going to finish the bag, and she has the zipper, and she's put everything in. But yeah, this is fantastic. I encourage you to go check out the thread. She talks about the pattern. She talks about, there's a whole bunch of photos in here of this bag. So cool. But I'll share with you sort of like the inside of the bag. So there you can see like all of her knitting stuff, some scissors, a pencil, measuring tape, all of the things going inside this bag. So practical, so beautifully sewn, like so well finished. So congratulations on that, Nina. It's serving as massive inspiration for many of us that are thinking about like, what can we do with our hand woven fabric? Yeah, I do agree. Like even just me cutting a square out of my fabric to sew that pillow was part of it was, oh no. There is like a little bit of a fear and a hesitation to doing that, but I'm glad that we're moving into that direction. And maybe we'll talk more about that fear of cutting into precious fabric, especially hand woven fabric. So that is basically the end of today's session. We've been talking a lot about all the things that you guys are making. It is so cool to see everything that everyone's weaving and all the inspiration that you give me, that you give each other. It is just, yeah, it's wonderful. I'm glad that we get this time to do these sessions every month and share a little bit about what you have been making. Now today, I would love to hear from you. Many of you guys are here on the call. You guys come every month. You're here every month, and you chime up in the forums. You're on Discord. You chat, and you're here, and all these kinds of things. And so your opinions of things and how things are is really very, very important to us. We love hearing your feedback. It's actually super, super important. And so every month I ask to do this little survey. And so this month I have actually kind of big questions to ask you as well. So I encourage you guys to go check out that link, schoolasweetgeorgia.com/April24, and we will do a random draw from all these submissions to win a gift card that would be used for, that you can use in the Sweet Georgia shop. You can use it for any of the yarn or the hand-dyed fiber, things like that. So that will be made available to somebody who can come and fill in the blanks on our survey. We do have some quite big questions to ask. A lot of the questions are about membership and about the school and about what we offer and how we offer it and things like that. And so I'm very, very interested to hear your feedback on that. It's really important. It actually, like all of you here who are on the chat, you help guide the decisions that we make around how we grow and build and evolve the school over all of these years. And I think back to like May 2017 is when I put out the intention to start the school in the first place. And it's kind of crazy to believe that that is already 7 years ago. When I started, I thought, oh, I'm going to be making content for the school for the next 5 to 10 years. And here we are. We are at about 7 years and figuring out, where do we take this now? We already have over 100 courses that we're offering in all of these different crafts, from knitting and spinning and weaving and dyeing. And we're talking about the things that originally, when I started out, these are the things that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to be able to bring things like a knitting grading class to the community. I wanted to be able to make content about weaving with hand painted warps. Like, these things are coming. To be able to design your own projects with hand painted yarn or hand dyed yarn, to dye your own yarn, to spin all of this stuff. All of these things are things that we talked about at the very, very beginning in 2017. Making things with your hand spun yarn, weaving with your hand spun, sewing with your hand woven, all of these kinds of things. So we're doing it. So now that we're doing it, what do we do next? And or what should we do more of? Or what should we do differently? So again, all of your feedback is really, really helpful to this entire process of growing the school. So I appreciate you guys thinking about it and telling us what you think. And we just try every month to make this whole thing better. So that is basically it for today. That is it. I have a big thank you, guys. Thank you. And I will see you all inside either the forums, on Discord, hopefully in one of the meetings. I will be gone next week for H&H and hopefully doing a little bit of filming there. Maybe I'm going to be hopefully meeting people there. I'll meet you, Karen. I'll see you there, Karen. And then yeah, hope to see you guys again sometime soon around the school. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you next month. All right. Bye for now.